All right, what is up, YouTube? So today I have some unfortunate or maybe fortunate news, depending on how you feel about the temple mechanic. In case you guys did not know, the temple got giga hotfix nerfed within like the last hour and a half, and the prices of things have just kind of plummeted as a result. For example, Whittles, I sold one earlier today for 18 div. They're now worth 6. Omen of Lights, those were worth like 15 div. These are now worth like 7. I think a lot of it will recover to a certain degree. I think a lot of people are panic selling shit. It's also just because the temple nerfs affected temple very, very negatively. I wouldn't say it's like the most insane nerf in the world. It's really, really bad. But if you already have a pre-built temple, you are going to be seeing probably like 30% of the loot that you were seeing before, maybe 20. But if you were dropping like 100 div per temple, you're not going to be dropping like 20. You know what I mean? It's still going to be really, really good. It's still going to be the top tier farm, but only if you already have your temple set up. And that is kind of what the nerfs were. There's essentially 4 parts to the temple nerf. Number 1 is diminishing returns, which I think is really good and necessary. Like it just got too OP at the higher ends. There's no problems there for me. But the biggest problem here is this, essentially your lock medallion can only be used on tier 3 rooms, which is impossible to actually achieve if you're trying to be building up your temple for the first time. So if your temple looks kind of like mine, you're absolutely fucked, right? You're just completely giga fucked because, well, how do I progress from here? My tier 2 barracks is only tier 2, so I can't lock this and I can't protect this. The only thing I can do is kind of keep it in stasis by locking my spy master tier 3, but I'll never be able to actually progress my temple unless I'm able to like triple tier up certain things. And there's ways you can do that, but there's no ways you can do that reliably. So the temple progression, like building your temple, not just significantly nerfed, it's gutted. Like it's impossible to build temples now. So if you don't have your temple already built up, you're just kind of cooked. That's just how it is. If you have your temple already set, it's not the worst thing ever, a big nerf, but you will still have access to what is the best moneymaker in the entire league, which is fully built temple farming. The third part of this is that the spy master room, which is one of the most OP rooms because is where you drop the locked medallions. And also it just gives you a ton of loot and also increases the effect of really, really good rooms. This was swapped with the Golem Works, which if you don't know, the Golem Works room had some pretty bad buffs. Like it's buffing rooms that give you like chest rarity. It's really, really bad. So this just makes it so that your already built temples are a lot worse. So that's kind of how you go from 100% effectiveness of just like 100 div per temple down to like 20 or 10 div per temple. It's because of this change plus this change and also this third change here, which is, you know, a bug fix, but it's just a nerf to temple really. Anyways, that's just kind of all there really is to it. I wanted to let you know in case you guys were wondering why, like, hey, I can't use my medallions on my rooms anymore. It's because they actually hotfix nerfed it. I think it was kind of a tough call on their end. I think they needed to do something. I don't know if they did the correct thing though. Because essentially what they're doing right now is they're only nerfing people who haven't giga sweated built their temple. And if you can see here, my timer is still running, but I spent 30 hours, well, probably like 20 hours building this temple. I got a little unlucky, but it takes a long time to build a temple. So if you weren't someone who was able to invest a lot of time building temples, you're just kind of fucked right now. It's just the way it is. It's really unfortunate. It's a little sad. Also, I think the most important thing is, I guess the way you can frame it is we lose a lot of div per hour, which is really bad and frustrating in some ways. But like, I think at the same time, it's good because, you know, the economy was too fucked. You know, mirrors were 3.5K divs earlier today. The last league at the same time, they were like 800 divs. So they definitely need to nerf it, but it's not just a nerf. It's a complete gutting of the mechanic because if you don't have your temple already set up, you can't set up your temple anymore. If you're at a spot like I am, where it's like half set up even, it provides no loot. This temple right here is worse than just running maps. And I think that ultimately is like the biggest issue because I think this temple mechanic is really cool. Most importantly, in my mind, what the temple mechanic does is it gives us a faux endgame. The biggest issue with PoE 2 right now is there's no endgame, but this temple mechanic provided us with an endgame that was just like really, really fun and cool to build towards. Because it's not just about like how much currency you're making. Obviously, that is kind of the point of farming, right? Is you want to be making as much currency as possible. But I thought it was really cool that, you know, even like throughout this process, like this temple, for example, pre-nerf, I didn't have a single temple that was more than 3 divs. That being said, like I still had a lot of fun building the temple because it felt like I was progressing not just like my currency, but my character. Because now like, oh, I'm getting closer and closer. Every time I ran temple, I felt like I'm one step closer. I feel like I progressed one step in my journey. And that kind of thing is gone now because there's no more progression in the temple. We can't build up our temples any further than they are currently. And I feel like that is ultimately like what they fucked up the most on. Lose the div per hour, that's okay. Honestly, that doesn't bother me. More in line with the other mechanics, that's smart. I think that's like reasonable. But you kind of lose this, I think, this mechanic that makes it so that we can feel a sense of progression in the end game that's very, very deeply missing in PoE 2. and arguably even so in PoE 1. I think this is just something that you could just sink 100, 200 hours into and have a lot of fun building up your temple in a unique way, experience the fruits of your labor in real time. My first 2 Tink temple, I was actually really excited about that. I was like, okay, like I see what all the hype is about. This is really fun. And I would imagine that when I got my first 10 Tink temple or whatever, like as I started progressing through the ranks, getting more and more rooms, I would imagine that the temple, it would have just felt so rewarding in the process itself. And now, unfortunately, I feel like that's going to be gone. But I'm really curious about what you guys think. I feel like this was kind of it was a necessary change in some ways, but I think they might have approached it in the wrong way because they just kind of benefited the people who abused this mechanic early. And even now after the change, it's a situation where if you abuse it early and you have your whole temple set up, you can still reap the fruits of your labor. But if you abuse it early or you didn't abuse it enough and you only have half your temple set up or you didn't do your temple and you wanted to start it now, you're on vacation or you're busy with work, you just can't ever catch up. And that I feel like is a very bad feeling to have of just being permanently stuck behind other people for things that are outside your control. That's kind of like the bad stuff. I guess the one thing I want to talk about, and the one thing I'm curious about your guys' opinion as well, is what they could have done differently and what they maybe can still do differently if they revert some of the changes. I personally think that like they could just keep all the changes, but they just keep on letting us build the temple. If at the end here, where like, you know, you have a fully built temple, even with all the nerfs, if you're still making like 10 div a temple, like that's still going to be like insanely good profit by PoE 2 standards. I think if they were to just revert that one change right here with the lock medallions, I think the large majority of the problem would be fixed. And after a few days, once like our dopamine receptors kind of revert to like how they used to be before the OP temple snake juicing, people will kind of be able to like normalize and get back into like accepting that like 10 div per temple is okay. But right now it just feels like no one can actually build their temples. Anyways, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it just over? Are you guys going to play the league still? Like number 1 and number 2, like what can they do to fix what I feel like is a very, very like obvious and kind of egregious mistake on their ends with balancing? Let me know, boys. 07. I hope your guys' leagues aren't ended.